Hey movie fans, so today I thought I'd try a new segment called How It Could Work, where I take a specific superhero or super villain or event in comic book history and say how it could work if it was ever adapted into the big screen. So today for our first one, I thought I'd take a look at one of my all-time favorite superheroes that we haven't actually seen on the big screen yet, but I'm hoping with these new DC movies that we do, Nightwing. Now, Nightwing, the character under the mask, is incredibly well known, even to general movie-going audiences, but a lot of people don't actually know this version of the character. So what I mean by that is everyone knows Robin in some way or another, but not everybody knows Nightwing. Essentially, everyone knows about the very first Robin. He was an acrobat that his parents die at the hands of Tony Zuko, the mobster, and he eventually gets adopted by Bruce Wayne and becomes the first Robin as the little pint-sized 9-year-old who suspiciously runs around with an older man and fights crime together. So eventually, Robin grows up and leaves the side of Batman and becomes his own character after some soul-searching, and with a little bit of name help from Superman, of all people, who gave him the idea for the name Nightwing. Dick Grayson goes off and becomes his own hero, Nightwing, and protects his own city of Bloodhaven, completely separate from Batman. And so with this new DC Cinematic Universe that's being built around Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck's Batman, the time has actually never been better for the Nightwing character to come to fruition on the big screen. What I mean by that is, in this trailer, in the trailer for Batman v Superman, Batman is clearly at this for a while. Rumors are suggesting that Batman's been Batman for about 20 years now. That means that he's been doing it for quite some time now, and he's probably had a slew of sidekicks if it's following some form of comic book representation. So in the Batman v Superman trailer, we also see a beat-up Robin suit that says, "Ha ha, joke's on you," which would more or less lead the viewer to think that some Robin has died in the hands of Batman's care at some point or another during these 20-plus years of service. And it more or less sets up this story called Under the Red Hood, which a lot of people are suggesting Under the Red Hood might be the storyline that the standalone Batman movie follows, which I think would be perfect. One of the characters in Under the Red Hood that shows up sporadically, but is more or less a Batman story, is Nightwing. And that is exactly how you want to go about introducing Nightwing to this movie-going audience. You'd show him a little bit. I think the perfect amount, and I'm sorry, but we're going to have to look at Marvel for an example about this. You want to use Nightwing as much as Marvel used Falcon in Winter Soldier. You show that they're competent on their own and they can assist the hero when need be, but they aren't dependent on their hero. They do some great dual action together, but you don't need them together. Like, I loved Falcon on his own, but he never seemed to me like he needed Captain America to save him. He was competent enough on his own. So if they're doing an Under the Red Hood story, Nightwing would be perfect for this, as he only shows up a little bit in the actual story. But if done correctly, not only could you introduce Nightwing as a side character, but you could also have him be his own in his own movie if you spin it correctly. And I know how. So before we go into how this would all play out on the big screen, we need to take some tweaks to the Nightwing character, more or less. Some minor tweaks, not anything big. So off the bat, we get some flashbacks of when he was Robin. But he's no longer 9 or 10 years old. We bump up the age to about 15 or 16. It makes it a little more reasonable, and he's more competent. That way he has more gymnastics training when he was with the Flying Graysons as a child, and he has a little bit more to go off of when Batman picks him up. Plus, it's a little more believable that a 15 or 16-year-old is fighting as opposed to a 9 or 10-year-old. And then when he eventually leaves Batman, we bump that age up to about 18 or 19 or 20, right around that age when he becomes his own identity. So he's no longer as young as he once was. Also, with it being a Red Hood story and the main antagonist donning a lot of red, we'll go with the classic blue for the Nightwing character. And that's more or less, I will admit my own bias, I prefer the blue over the red. So more or less how you would introduce him is, in Under the Red Hood, you have a scene where Batman is doing his thing, he's being Batman, he's taking criminals down. He sees a group of criminals with another big-name criminal that is actually being hinted at. So you have a group of criminals with Deathstroke. Now Deathstroke, there's a reason why I'm picking him, and I'll get to that in a second. So Batman's fighting all these criminals and Deathstroke, he can kind of handle himself, but there's a lot of criminals here, and Deathstroke's strong on his own, so he needs a little bit of help. All of a sudden, you hear, "Need some help, old man?" And you look up and you see Nightwing. And as Nightwing and Batman are fighting, this is where you get your first real taste of what the Nightwing character is like. He's spurting off one-liners. The dude just will not shut up. And Batman, of course, he's really wanting Nightwing to shut up because this is not for fun. But the banter that Nightwing and Robin have will obviously suggest that they have some chemistry. This shows for the modern audience that doesn't read comics, hey, these guys know each other and have been working for quite some time now, as they flow very, very well. And eventually the two of them take on Deathstroke together. Now, why did I pick Deathstroke? Because Deathstroke, like Nightwing, is a character that's growing in popularity over the past couple years. They both have been showing up in various mediums, whether it be animated TV series, more of the DC animated shows, or video games. They both have appeared in different Arkham games. And Deathstroke himself actually appeared in Season 2 of Arrow. Also, Deathstroke is a key villain for Nightwing himself. They have had a lot of run-ins, but Deathstroke has also had a lot of run-ins with Batman. Also, a lot of alsos, but it doesn't matter. Deathstroke is being hinted at being in the upcoming Suicide Squad movie. So it would tie the universe together extremely well to have Batman and Nightwing take on Deathstroke together. But the fighting is interrupted as all the other thugs that are in the background get shot with a far-off sniper from some person that we don't know. Batman races off to try and track down the shooter, who obviously, in this case, will be the Red Hood. In the scramble, Deathstroke gets lost in the fold and he escapes. So, Nightwing, if you wanted to do a Nightwing standalone movie, that would be your story right there, trying to track down Deathstroke. Why? Because Deathstroke has been responsible for a slew of assassinations in Nightwing's own city of Bloodhaven, and something has drawn him to Gotham. Some reason that he wants to take out Batman. That's Nightwing's whole mission, is to figure out what is going on with Deathstroke, while Batman is worrying about the Red Hood, because the Red Hood story is primarily an individual story about Batman's inner turmoil. You can have Nightwing show up periodically, but you also have the open door to do a Nightwing story if you wanted to do that. Plus, Deathstroke is the perfect villain for Nightwing, as the general population could probably know about him, and he's enough of a challenge for Nightwing on his own. Case in point, he's fighting alongside Batman in the scene I just mentioned. So could he take him on just by himself? Well, we'd have to see in the movie itself. So Nightwing could show up in the Under the Red Hood story at some point periodically. And he's the comic relief if you want to use him, as he should be, because Batman is all dark and mysterious a lot of the time, but that's why you have Nightwing in there, to be the more uplifting character, the one with more humor. And so after the whole Red Hood storyline unfolds, Nightwing comes back, and Batman more or less questions him, saying, well, what was with the whole Deathstroke thing? Did you get to the bottom of that? And Nightwing's like, kind of. So I got two things to tell you. The first thing is he was after you, obviously, but it's all good now. He's back in Arkham for now, but, you know, he's going to come after you at some point. And so Batman obviously asks the questions. Well, Slade is a mercenary. He doesn't work without getting paid. So there's someone behind that. And obviously Nightwing's just like, dude, I'm way ahead of you, man. I tried to get that information out of him, but Slade wasn't saying anything. All he kept going on about was the owls, the man in the owl mask. It was just really bizarre. We should just leave it alone for now. Bruce obviously is not buying it. He's just scratching his head, thinking, I'm going to have to look into this whole owl thing. Which there, in and of itself, would be your setup for the next Batman movie, which could also include Nightwing if you wanted to go that route. Because the owls would be the reference to the Court of Owls or the Night of Owls, the two-parter thing, which was a huge event in the comics that happened a couple of years ago, which basically is this whole cult and underground movement that knows Gotham City's workings better than Batman does and completely catches Batman off guard, more or less having a whole army and relying on the whole Bat army to take them on. It would be a nice, like, tease. I like when a movie does that. And so this would make Nightwing a bit of a pivotal character, but not so pivotal because it's still a Batman movie. You want that. You want some small cameos, but you still depend on that character. Like I said, Falcon in Winter Soldier was to absolutely perfectly. He was in there, but you could still tell it was a Captain America movie. As much as I love Nightwing, you can't immediately place him in front and center in the movie. I would love to see a Nightwing movie, and we might get that. But if we want to get there, we need to take the steps up there. And now there are certain ways that we can go about that. We can do the Deathstroke thing after the first Batman movie. Or during the whole Court of Owls saga, which would hopefully be Batman 2, whatever they decide to call it. He's doing his own thing, as each member of the Bat family is during the Court of Owls thing. There could be another one. There's plenty of different opportunities that the Nightwing character could do. Well, hopefully this comes to fruition someday, because as a huge Nightwing fan, I'm kind of getting a little sick of only being able to play as Nightwing in Arkham City and Arkham Knight. I would love to instead just be able to watch him on the big screen instead of just animated features. Speaking of Arkham City and Arkham Knight, those are just fantastic video games, which if you like video games, segue, not a very good segue, but I have a video game friend that you should probably check out his channel, because he's a great guy and he posts great content. Check out DustyPrimo. I'll put a link in the description to his great channel. He's a good friend of mine. He posts some really funny stuff. He's a great dude. Go follow him. So what do you think about Nightwing? Back on target. Stay on target. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at 17 Movie Reviews. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals.